Talk to yourself like this, and your life will change. There exists a profound and ancient secret, one that the most truly successful individuals you have ever observed, those who seem to effortlessly embody the fulfilling lives you quietly yearn for, have rarely, if ever, openly disclosed. This powerful truth, often guarded or simply unspoken, holds no connection whatsoever to the superficial advantages of inherited wealth, extensive personal networks, or mere strokes of good fortune. Its roots run far deeper than any of these external factors. The most extraordinary thinkers throughout history, profound philosophers, and insightful psychologists who ventured into the deepest, often uncharted layers of the human psyche, luminaries such as Carl Jung himself, uncovered this fundamental secret centuries before the modern world even possessed the conceptual vocabulary or scientific frameworks to articulate it. These pioneering minds realized that the most accomplished and impactful individuals on this planet are precisely those who have mastered the art of directing, governing, and consciously influencing their own inner world, their very consciousness. Far too often, this crucial knowledge has remained obscured, almost as if its widespread dissemination might somehow diminish or threaten the established positions of those who already wield its power. Yet the genuine distinguishing factor, the true essence of exceptional achievement, isn't found in innate talent, prestigious academic achievements, or the lucky opportunities that might coincidentally present themselves along your path. No, the fundamental difference is intricately woven into the very fabric of the internal conversation that is perpetually unfolding within your mind. It's that continuous dialogue happening right now, in this very instant, as you navigate through your day-to-day existence. Consider this. While you might be walking down a bustling street, silently reprimanding yourself and endlessly replaying past missteps in an internal loop, the very people you look up to are utilizing that exact same mental space, that precious inner resource, to cultivate their growth, refine their abilities, and strategically plan for their next significant triumph. While you might instinctively use your inner voice to rehearse potential failures, to mentally prepare for worst-case scenarios, those who achieve greatness employ that identical, powerful voice to rehearse and visualize their success. While you may speak to yourself with the harshness and skepticism one might reserve for their most challenging adversary, they instead communicate with themselves as though they were nurturing their most devoted, trusted, and unwavering companion. This subtle but profound shift in internal address is where true transformation begins. Let us be clear, this is not merely empty motivational rhetoric designed to evoke fleeting inspiration, nor is it a simplistic, naive suggestion to passively think positive thoughts and expect miracles. This truth, as Carl Jung himself rigorously demonstrated and articulated, represents the fundamental mechanism through which our perceived reality is, not just observed, but actively constructed and shaped. Your internal dialogue, the constant stream of communication you have with yourself, functions as the foundational programming language for the entirety of your life's experience. Tragically, a vast majority of people are currently operating on what can only be described as profoundly faulty mental software. This software is often laden with psychological viruses, limiting beliefs, fears, and negative assumptions that were unwittingly installed in their minds years ago, often without their conscious awareness or explicit permission. The truly wealthy, those who wield significant power, whether personal or societal, and individuals who experience profound spiritual fulfillment, share a common mastery. They have painstakingly learned how to identify, debug, and ultimately eradicate that corrupted internal code, replacing it with new, empowering programs that consistently operate in their favor. Drawing deeply from the profound wisdom embedded within Jung's groundbreaking concept of the collective unconscious, these individuals have come to a transformative understanding. Their thoughts do not merely passively reflect an objective reality. On the contrary, their thoughts actively, indeed dynamically, create it. While these enlightened few have harnessed this potent knowledge to build entire empires, to manifest extraordinary achievements, you, perhaps unknowingly, may have been using this very same inherent power to construct nothing more than a perpetual cycle of excuses. But today, right now, the time has come for me to share with you that very same code they have been diligently utilizing. Rooted deeply in the intricate principles of Carl Jung's depth psychology, I will guide you through a systematic process to reprogram your mind in a remarkably short span of just 7 days. This journey will empower you to break free from settling for the limited life you may have mistakenly believed you deserved, and instead to embark on the exhilarating path of actively constructing the life you genuinely and profoundly desire. As Carl Jung sagely observed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This profound statement underscores the critical importance of self-awareness in shaping your destiny. If this message resonates deeply within you, touching upon something authentic and true, I encourage you to subscribe to Carl Jung Philosophy and click the like button. What you are about to discover has the genuine potential to fundamentally alter the way you perceive yourself, your capabilities, and your relationships with everyone around you. Consider this. Right now, in this precise second, a specific voice is actively speaking within your mind. It has been conversing with you ceaselessly since the very moment you opened your eyes this morning. This inner voice has served as your most faithful and, at times, your most brutally honest traveling companion for countless years. What most people either fail to perceive or perhaps are simply too apprehensive to truly confront is this undeniable truth: that ongoing internal conversation, meticulously constructing your lived experience, moment by breathtaking moment, without interruption, without a single pause for rest. On average, approximately 60,000 distinct thoughts traverse the landscape of your mind every single day. And, rather astonishingly, the vast majority of individuals dedicate roughly 90% of those thoughts to merely replaying the identical mental patterns they entertained just yesterday. They awaken each morning and their mind immediately begins to play the same worn-out record, the same familiar anxieties, the same recurring complaints, the same deeply ingrained self-imposed limitations. This cycle, if left unchecked, can define their entire reality. But what if you possess the power to entirely transform that ceaseless inner dialogue, to shift its entire tone and direction in just 7 days? What if you could begin speaking to yourself with the same profound clarity, the same unwavering conviction, and the same compassionate wisdom that those high-achieving individuals you so deeply admire effortlessly employ in their own internal monologues. What if you could consciously direct those approximate 60,000 daily thoughts towards meticulously weaving, thread by intricate thread, the rich tapestry of the life you genuinely aspire to inhabit? The reality you are currently experiencing serves as a flawless mirror, a direct reflection of how you have consistently spoken to yourself up until this very moment. If you find yourself grappling with persistent financial strain, take a quiet moment to listen with profound attention to the subtle whispers you have been unknowingly directing at yourself concerning money and abundance. If your relationships repeatedly encounter difficulties or seem to fall apart, then pay exceptionally close attention to the internal narrative you consistently maintain about love, connection, and your inherent worthiness of both. The outer world, without exception, and in every single instance, is a direct, undeniable reflection of your inner landscape. For many, the relationship they cultivate with themselves is tragically, almost paradoxically, an abusive one. The crushing, demeaning words they would never, under any circumstances, dare utter to a cherished friend, they direct at themselves without a moment's hesitation, often with casual cruelty. But here lies the profound secret. When you consciously choose to transform this fundamental internal conversation, your entire existence begins to miraculously reorient itself around this powerful shift. The true awakening dawns when you recognize that you have been all along programming your own reality unconsciously through the persistent hum of your internal dialogue. Now, you are poised to learn how to do it deliberately, intentionally, and with conscious awareness, guided by Carl Jung's timeless principle of bringing the shadow, those hidden aspects of self, into the illuminating light of conscious awareness. Most people, regrettably, navigate their days on a perpetual autopilot setting. They rise, and their mind immediately launches the same exhausted, pre-programmed script. I'm too tired. I'm not good enough. I can't handle this. Does any of that sound uncomfortably familiar? This relentless mental noise operates much like a broken radio station, perpetually playing in the background of your life, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And for the vast majority of individuals, that station broadcasts only the saddest, most defeated songs, drawn from an archive of past failures, shattered hopes, and unresolved fears. However, the profound power to change that station, to select an entirely different soundtrack for your life, has always resided firmly within your own hands. The moment you begin speaking to yourself with the same kind of conviction and support that genuinely successful people employ, everything in your world begins to transform. Think for a moment about the most confident, most accomplished person you know personally. Do you honestly believe they awaken each morning and immediately begin compiling a list of all the reasons why they cannot possibly succeed? Do they spend their precious days consumed by relentless self-criticism, constantly doubting their capabilities and fixating on every conceivable thing that could potentially go wrong? Of course not. They have, through conscious effort, learned to wield their internal dialogue not as a tool of self-destruction or limitation, but rather as a sophisticated instrument of deliberate, purposeful creation. In school, we were all diligently taught the essential skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. Yet not a single one of us was ever explicitly instructed on how to speak to ourselves in ways that genuinely inspire, uplift, empower. Consequently, by default, we unwittingly absorbed the internal communication patterns of the people around us, perhaps from worried parents, anxious teachers, or from a cultural narrative that often mistakenly equates self-criticism with genuine humility. Understanding this cycle is crucial. Your thoughts generate your emotions. Your emotions, in turn, directly influence your actions, and your actions inevitably deliver your results. This powerful interconnected cycle either keeps you deeply imprisoned within your current limitations, or conversely, sets you entirely free to achieve your greatest potential. When you consciously take control and direct your thinking, you instantly begin to feel profoundly different. When you feel different, you naturally behave in new and more constructive ways. And when you behave differently, you inevitably begin receiving completely different, more favorable results from life itself. As Carl Jung himself profoundly emphasized, the human mind possesses a remarkable characteristic. It cannot reliably distinguish between what is objectively real and what is vividly and consistently imagined. When you consistently and deeply tell yourself that you are inherently confident, unequivocally capable, and truly worthy of success, your mind, without questioning, accepts this as an absolute truth. It then begins the extraordinary process of reorganizing your entire biology, your internal systems, and your external perceptions around this newly accepted reality. When you consistently speak as though you are already in the active process of becoming the person you aspire to be, you quite literally embody those desired qualities in the present moment, manifesting them into your reality. Most people, however, do the precise opposite. They rehearse failure, they habitually practice anxiety, and they relentlessly reinforce their own perceived limitations with every passing thought. They wake up and mentally plan for things to inevitably go wrong. And then they genuinely wonder why life feels so relentlessly challenging and difficult. The moment you change the way you speak to yourself, you simultaneously change the way you genuinely treat yourself. And when you change the way you treat yourself, your entire posture in the world, how you carry yourself, how you interact, how you perceive possibilities, fundamentally shifts. And when your posture shifts, the world itself begins to respond to you in entirely new and remarkable ways. People will treat you differently, with greater respect and openness. Opportunities will begin to arrive at your door through channels you might never have conceived of before. This is not a form of self-deception or an act of mere performance. This is the authentic alignment of your internal dialogue with who you truly are at your core, and with the extraordinary person you are in the active process of becoming. This is the conscious and deliberate breaking of old, conditioned habits, and the intentional, purposeful construction of a new, empowered self, one chosen conversation at a time. The extraordinary beauty of this practice is its accessibility. It costs you absolutely nothing. You require no specialized equipment, no expensive certifications, and no one else's permission or external approval. All that is truly required is your willingness to begin paying genuine, conscious attention to how you speak to yourself, and your courageous choice to embark on a different path each time you notice the old, limiting internal dialogue attempting to pull you backward. Over the next 7 days, you are going to embark on a profound journey to transform your fundamental relationship with yourself through the power of conscious and deliberate internal dialogue. 7 days is precisely the ideal period for beginning to forge new neural pathways within your brain and to firmly establish fresh, empowering mental templates. Why specifically 7 days? Because it is exactly the duration needed to begin effectively breaking deeply ingrained automatic patterns of thought. Within 7 days, you will build sufficient momentum to genuinely feel a significant shift within yourself. You will begin feeling different, behaving differently, and witnessing different, more favorable outcomes materializing around you in your daily life. Throughout these transformative 7 days, you will systematically navigate through 3 distinct yet interconnected levels of personal transformation. The first level is focused on becoming acutely aware of how you currently speak to yourself, as most people, unfortunately, possess no conscious awareness of their inner dialogue whatsoever. The second level involves learning concrete techniques to interrupt those old, self-limiting patterns and consciously replace them with new, empowering ones. The third and final level is dedicated to elevating your internal dialogue to the lofty standard of the extraordinary person you are actively in the process of becoming. The fundamental key to achieving lasting success in this practice is unwavering consistency, not unattainable perfection. You do not need to successfully intercept every single negative thought that enters your mind. You simply need to cultivate a state where you are more conscious than unconscious, more deliberate in your choices than automatic in your reactions. Every single time you catch yourself engaged in an old pattern and consciously choose a better, more supportive inner conversation, you are actively rewiring your mind and purposefully creating your new reality along the unique path Jung famously termed individuation, the process of becoming your whole, authentic self. Your environment holds enormous significance during these 7 crucial days. Make a deliberate effort to surround yourself with people, books, and digital content that genuinely support and reinforce the new inner conversation you are diligently building. Consciously limit your exposure to negativity, harsh criticism, and the constant messaging of limitation that often pervades our modern world. Remember, you are engaged in the intricate process of installing a brand new operating system in your mind. And that profound process becomes dramatically easier, more effective, and far more enjoyable when you are not being continuously bombarded, undermined by the old, faulty programming from every conceivable direction. Now, let us embark upon the initial phase of this journey, encompassing the first 2 days. Days 1 and 2, awareness and intervention. These initial 2 days are dedicated to cultivating profound awareness and initiating deliberate intervention. During this phase, your primary task is to become a neutral, impartial observer of your own thinking patterns. Most individuals have become so deeply fused with their thoughts that they mistakenly believe they are their thoughts. However, as Jung wisely observed, you are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness that possesses the inherent power to choose and direct your thoughts. Your task during these first 2 days is beautifully simple, yet profoundly powerful. catch yourself. When you become aware of yourself speaking to yourself in critical, negative, or limiting ways, simply notice it. You do not need to change anything just yet. Your sole focus is to observe. Cultivate a genuine sense of curiosity about your own internal patterns. Ask yourself, how frequently do I criticize myself throughout the day? What specific situations or external triggers seem to consistently activate this negative inner conversation? What are the most common limiting phrases or self-defeating narratives that my mind tends to generate? When you catch yourself, deliberately employ the power of the conscious pause. Draw a slow, intentional breath. Simply acknowledge that you are observing your thought, rather than being controlled or carried away by it. This awareness, this deliberate act of stepping back and seeing, rather than being swept away by the current, is the very first fundamental gateway to true inner freedom. Many people go through entire days without once truly noticing what they are actually telling themselves. But you are different now. You are actively waking up to the intricate architecture of your own inner world. Rather than judging yourself harshly for having negative thoughts, approach them with the curious, detached fascination of a seasoned scientist. Ask yourself, where did this particular thought truly originate? Is this thought genuinely serving my highest good, or is it subtly, quietly working against my intentions? Is this thought rooted in something real, present, and verifiable? Or is it simply an old, outdated program running on sheer habit, perhaps a relic from a past experience? Look at your own mental patterns, not with frustration or disappointment, but with a quality of genuine, intrigued fascination. The intervention technique itself is remarkably straightforward, yet it carries the kind of precise psychological weight that Carl Jung would have recognized and deeply appreciated. When you catch yourself immersed in a negative inner conversation, simply and firmly say, either aloud or internally, a command word such as stop, cancel, or delete. You are quite literally cutting the flow of that old, unhelpful program midstream, disrupting its momentum. Then, take a deep, cleansing breath and consciously, deliberately select a different thought. You do not need to immediately leap into some wildly optimistic or unbelievable declaration. Simply choose something more neutral, more kind, more genuinely supportive of the direction in which you aspire to go. For instance, if you catch yourself thinking, "I always ruin everything," immediately interrupt that destructive pattern and consciously replace it with, "I learn and grow valuable lessons from every experience I encounter." If your inner voice persistently insists, "I cannot handle this challenging situation," gently but firmly shift to, "I am actively discovering creative and effective ways to achieve what I truly want." If the voice attempts to convince you, "I am not intelligent enough for this task," you can replace it with, "I am continuously expanding my knowledge, sharpening my skills, and developing my capabilities in new and exciting directions." The ultimate aim is never to completely eliminate negative thoughts entirely. That is neither practically possible nor truly necessary. The true aim is to cultivate a conscious awareness of your internal dialogue and to begin deliberately selecting thoughts that consistently support, rather than subtly sabotage, your deepest intentions and aspirations. Every single time you engage in this practice, every single instance, you profoundly strengthen your capacity to be the undisputed master of your own mind, rather than its helpless prisoner. Days 3 and 4, transformation and redirection. Days 3 and 4 propel you to the next level of this transformative journey. These are the crucial days of conscious transformation and intentional redirection. Now that you have diligently practiced the art of noticing your ingrained thought patterns and effectively interrupting them, the opportune time has arrived to consciously install new, empowering ones. Here, you begin the profound practice of speaking to yourself with the same warmth, understanding, and encouragement that you would naturally extend to your closest and most beloved friend. Think of how you would speak to a young child you adore, or to someone whose well-being you would instinctively protect with every fiber of your being. Human beings, paradoxically, are often extraordinarily harsh and unforgiving with themselves. The words they direct inward, the relentless accusations, the deep contempt, the dismissive judgments, are things they would never even dream of uttering to another person they genuinely cared about. But consider the immense power of this question. What if you began extending to yourself that very same unconditional warmth, that same unwavering encouragement, and that same patient, consistent support that you so naturally and freely offer to the people you love most in the world? What if, instead of being your own harshest, most relentless and unforgiving critic, you made the conscious and deliberate choice to become your own most devoted and unwavering advocate? During days 3 and 4, immerse yourself in the practice of speaking to yourself with genuine compassion, profound empathy, and deliberate care. When you inevitably make a mistake, for mistakes are an inherent part of growth, instead of immediately launching into an internal assault of self-blame, pause and gently ask yourself, what invaluable lesson can I genuinely learn from this experience? How can this moment serve my growth? When you encounter a difficult problem or a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, instead of fixating solely on all the reasons you perceive yourself as unable to overcome it, take a moment to powerfully remind yourself of every single challenge you have already skillfully navigated, courageously endured, and successfully survived in your past. When fear naturally arises within you, and it will, for fear is a universal human experience, instead of telling yourself that you are weak or incapable for feeling it, acknowledge how genuinely courageous you are for continuing to move forward, for taking action, and for persevering in spite of that very fear. The art of reframing holds extraordinary weight and transformative power during this phase of the practice. This is Carl Jung's psychological alchemy in its most practical, accessible, and deeply personal form. It involves taking the same raw, objective situation and finding a fundamentally different way to speak about it, a fresh angle from which to approach it, a more empowering story to tell yourself about what it truly means and where it is ultimately leading you. Instead of declaring, "This is utterly unbearable and impossibly difficult," try reframing it as, "This experience is profoundly strengthening me in ways I cannot yet fully comprehend or see." Instead of saying, "I have absolutely no idea what I am doing," shift your internal dialogue to, "I am actively learning everything I need to know as I move forward, step by painstaking step. Instead of feeling I am constantly falling behind everyone around me, try affirming, I am walking my own unique, singular, and unrepeatable path at exactly the right pace for my journey. Transform every I cannot into I am learning how to. This seemingly small, almost imperceptible shift in language performs something truly remarkable. It ceases to close doors of possibility and instead begins to hold them wide open, inviting new experiences. For example, I cannot speak confidently in front of others becomes I am actively learning to communicate with genuine confidence and presence. I cannot build my own business transforms into I am diligently learning everything required to create something meaningful and impactful of my own. I cannot find the right relationship shifts to I am learning how to naturally and effortlessly attract the right person into my life, one who aligns with my true self. These are not mere semantic games or superficial wordplay. They represent fundamental structural changes to the inner architecture of your belief system, and their power compounds with extraordinary force and momentum over time. Build profound momentum through a series of small but genuine victories. Acknowledge and appreciate every positive shift, no matter how modest or insignificant it may initially appear. Celebrate every moment of conscious awareness, every single instance where you successfully caught yourself in an old pattern and consciously chose a better, more empowering thought. Your internal dialogue should gradually become a heartfelt celebration of your ongoing progress, rather than a relentless, demoralizing audit of perceived deficiencies. Speak to yourself frequently about what is actively working, what is beautifully developing, and what is gracefully becoming possible in your life. Remember, you are not attempting to convince yourself of something inherently false or untrue. Rather, you are consciously choosing to focus your precious attention on the aspects of reality that genuinely serve your growth, expansion, and well-being, instead of dwelling on the aspects that merely confirm your perceived limitations. Both perspectives coexist simultaneously, and both are available to you at every single moment. You possess the inherent power to direct your attention toward what is broken or what is whole, toward what is absent or what is present, toward what appears impossible or what is entirely within your reach. The choice unequivocally belongs to you and no one else. Days 5, 6, and 7, elevation and embodiment. Days 5, 6, and 7 represent the powerful culmination of this practice, the phase of elevation and embodiment. This is where you transcend simply speaking as the person you currently perceive yourself to be, and intentionally begin speaking as the person you are actively, dynamically, and consciously in the profound process of becoming. You initiate a deep and meaningful conversation with your future self, that confident, accomplished, and deeply fulfilled version of you that already exists as pure, latent potential within the deepest recesses of your psyche right now. This is not an act of mere performance or superficial pretense. As Carl Jung so astutely described it, this is the magnificent awakening of the archetype that already resides within you, fully formed as pure, unrealized potential, simply awaiting the right internal conversations to finally call it forth into the light of conscious manifestation. Your future self is not a separate, distant being or an unattainable fantasy. That person is unequivocally you, but equipped with different habits, different core convictions, different internal conversations, and making different daily choices that align with their highest potential. When you begin speaking to yourself as that elevated person would speak, you immediately begin embodying those desired qualities in the present moment, rather than passively waiting indefinitely for them to magically arrive. Ask yourself these questions with genuine seriousness and deep introspection. How does your future self speak to itself? When that confident, grounded, and resilient version of you encounters a significant obstacle or a challenging setback, what does it say internally? How does your successful self relate to temporary failures, perceived mistakes, and unavoidable setbacks? What kind of internal conversation does your fulfilled self consistently maintain throughout an ordinary day? Begin having those conversations now, not someday in the vague future, not when your external circumstances magically improve, but today. Elevate your emotional state through the deliberate and intentional use of language. Rather than simply thinking positive thoughts in a passive and disconnected manner, choose thoughts that actively generate high-frequency emotional states, genuine, heartfelt gratitude, authentic, bubbling excitement, deep, soulful inspiration, expansive, unconditional love, and the kind of quiet, abiding joy that does not depend on fleeting external conditions. Emotion, truly, is the powerful fuel that ignites genuine and lasting transformation. When you consciously combine new and elevated thoughts with the corresponding emotional states they naturally generate, you create a powerful, magnetic condition of being that effortlessly draws new experiences, new people, and new opportunities toward you with a force that often feels almost inexplicable, like a benevolent magic. The profound power of a gratitude-based internal dialogue cannot be overstated or lightly dismissed as mere sentimentality. Instead of dwelling on what is perceived as absent or lacking from your life, begin consciously speaking to yourself about what you are genuinely grateful to possess right now in this very moment. Instead of habitually complaining about your current circumstances, take a moment to acknowledge and deeply appreciate how far you have already come, the incredible journey you have already traveled. Instead of anxiously worrying about an uncertain future, cultivate a deep and abiding appreciation for the opportunities that are already finding their way to you, often in unexpected forms. Speak about your future as though it is already gracefully unfolding in the present moment. For example, I am deeply grateful for the abundant success that is flowing into my life with ease. I love and genuinely appreciate the confident and capable person I am continually becoming. I appreciate how naturally and effortlessly I attract the right circumstances and the right people into my orbit. This is not an act of self-deception or delusion. This is the authentic and powerful alignment of your inner dialogue with your deepest intentions, your highest aspirations, and the true, magnificent direction of your life's trajectory. When you begin shifting your internal conversation in these profound ways, your physical body responds almost immediately and without delay, echoing the changes within. Stress hormones such as cortisol begin to measurably decrease because you are no longer triggering the primal fight or flight response through relentless negative self-talk. Your immune system gradually strengthens, becoming more robust because you are no longer depleting its vital resources through chronic self-criticism and sustained anxiety. Your energy levels rise dramatically because you are no longer exhausting yourself through constant internal conflict and the grinding, unproductive effort of resisting your own thoughts. You will begin sleeping more deeply and experiencing more complete restorative rest because your mind is no longer locked in combat with negative scenarios and cycles of self-blame through the night. You will awaken feeling genuinely refreshed and revitalized. Your digestion improves, your blood pressure stabilizes, and your heart rhythm becomes more coherent and regulated. Your body literally begins the miraculous process of healing itself from the accumulated damage of chronic stress and the years of toxic internal conversation you have been unknowingly directing at yourself. When you cease poisoning yourself with destructive thinking patterns, your entire physical system, now freed from the exhausting work of defending against a constant internal assault, can redirect all of that precious energy toward genuine repair, regeneration, and profound renewal. You will begin looking healthier, radiating a new vitality. You will begin feeling younger, more vibrant, because you are no longer engaged in an exhausting internal war with yourself. Your dreams, those nightly dialogues of the subconscious, may even begin to shift in quality and tone, becoming more vivid and constructive, because your subconscious mind is now processing healthier and more constructive symbolic material, in the very language that Carl Jung spent his lifetime diligently decoding. You may begin waking with innovative solutions already forming in your mind, with creative insights arriving even before you have fully opened your eyes, a testament to your newly aligned inner world. The transformation in your relationships will not only surprise you, but may even astonish you. When you alter the fundamental way you speak to yourself, your interactions with every other person in your life automatically begin to transform as well, like ripples in a pond. You become more genuinely confident, more naturally positive, and far more enjoyable to be around. People will begin to notice the palpable change in you, even when they cannot articulate precisely what has shifted. You become less defensive in difficult conversations because you are no longer constantly attacking yourself on the inside and therefore do not feel the desperate need to protect yourself so vigilantly on the outside. You become more open to honest feedback and genuine criticism because you are no longer filtering every piece of information through a relentless self-judgmental lens. You become more generous, patient, and understanding with others because you have cultivated the profound ability to be genuinely generous and patient with yourself first. You begin attracting an entirely different quality of people and circumstances into your life because you are now operating from an entirely different, higher energetic frequency. This is a genuine, undeniable leap in confidence and self-assurance, and the people around you will feel it immediately and instinctively. When you cease tearing yourself down in the privacy of your own inner world, you naturally stand taller, speak with greater clarity, and connect with others from a place of authentic presence and genuine warmth, rather than from anxious performance or self-consciousness. People are deeply drawn to this quality of energy. In a world often populated by individuals who are constantly at war with themselves, your hard-won inner peace becomes something genuinely rare, something profoundly valuable, something that others sense and feel without necessarily being able to articulate its name. When you address yourself with deep, consistent respect and unwavering self-love, you naturally extend that same respectful foundation to every relationship you enter, enriching and elevating them. When you genuinely believe in yourself from the inside out, others feel that conviction, that unwavering certainty, and they too begin believing in you as well. Let us be completely honest and transparent with each other about what lies ahead on this transformative path. Your old, entrenched habits will inevitably resist this change with considerable force. These deeply ingrained patterns of thought have been governing your life for years, perhaps even for decades, and they have absolutely no intention of releasing their tenacious grip without a significant struggle. You may find yourself occasionally forgetting to practice, inadvertently drifting back into familiar, comfortable, though unhelpful thought patterns, or even temporarily feeling worse as you become increasingly aware of just how pervasive and negative your internal conversation has actually been. This resistance is entirely normal, a natural part of any significant change, and it is, in truth, a deeply encouraging sign. As Carl Jung himself observed, it is clear evidence that you are actively engaging with and changing something that genuinely matters, something fundamental to your being. The old personality, the one constructed layer by layer upon years of negative self-talk, does not wish to simply dissolve. It wants to keep you contained within the familiar, predictable territory it knows, even when that territory is causing you genuine harm and profound suffering. Anticipate this resistance, expect it to appear, and in advance make the firm, unwavering decision that you will not allow it to pull you off course or derail your progress. You may also encounter a subtle form of skepticism, both from within yourself. Your rational mind may insist that something this straightforward cannot possibly produce real, tangible results, and from the people around you. Individuals in your environment may question what you are doing or subtly attempt to draw you back into the old, limited conversations and perspectives you used to share with them, which may feel more comfortable to them. All of this, understand, is simply an inherent part of the process of growth and change. Remain loyal and committed to your practice, regardless of what others think or say about it. And if you do forget to practice, if you momentarily stray, simply begin again with patience and kindness. Do not use a moment of forgetfulness or a temporary lapse as evidence that this powerful approach does not work, or that you are somehow incapable of genuine, lasting change. Instead, treat it as a natural and expected part of the learning curve, a gentle reminder to return to your chosen path. Every single moment you remember and consciously return to the practice of deliberate inner dialogue, you are profoundly strengthening the muscle of awareness itself, making it more robust and responsive. Showing yourself genuine compassion throughout this entire process is not optional. It is absolutely essential for success. If you catch yourself criticizing yourself for being self-critical, you have simply added another reinforcing layer onto the very pattern you are working so diligently to dissolve. Instead, appreciate the moment of awareness itself. Celebrate each instance where you recognize the old pattern taking hold and consciously chose something better, something more supportive. Be patient and genuinely kind with yourself as you develop this crucial new skill. Stay committed and persistent even when results do not appear to be arriving precisely on the schedule your ego has decided upon. Some individuals notice significant shifts and breakthroughs within hours or a few days. Others require more time for the new mental roots to establish themselves deeply enough to become visibly apparent. Trust the process completely with unwavering faith. Every single moment of conscious and positive inner dialogue is actively restructuring your mind at a level far deeper than what the eye can see, even when no outward evidence of change is yet apparent. When your motivation inevitably wavers, and it will, for that is the human experience, return to the most fundamental and profound reasons you began this journey. Remember what it has felt like to be under constant, relentless assault from your own mind, the burden of negative self-talk. Remember the magnificent life you are committed to creating, the extraordinary person you have chosen to become, what Carl Jung referred to as the individuated and fully integrated human being. Use these powerful reminders as the fuel that keeps you moving forward, keeps you inspired when the road feels long or challenging. Once this firm foundation of conscious inner dialogue is firmly established, more advanced and potent dimensions of this practice become available to you, enhancing its transformative power exponentially. Combining your internal dialogue with deliberate, vivid visualization, for instance, makes the entire practice dramatically more impactful and effective. While speaking to yourself in positive and affirming ways, simultaneously run vivid mental imagery of yourself succeeding, expanding your capabilities, and living the life you are actively building. Use specific language patterns tailored precisely to different key areas of your life. If you are diligently working to transform your financial situation, speak to yourself extensively about abundance, genuine value creation, and the energetic flow of true generosity. If improving your health is your primary focus, speak in the language of vibrant vitality, unwavering strength, and miraculous cellular renewal. Timing matters enormously in this practice. The first several minutes immediately upon waking and the final minutes before falling asleep are the most potent windows available for installing new, empowering patterns into your subconscious mind. During these transitional states, your mind is operating in the highly receptive alpha and theta brainwave frequencies. It is vastly more receptive, malleable, and impressionable than during ordinary waking hours. Use these precious windows with full, deliberate intention. Create personal mantras, inner affirmations that resonate specifically and deeply with you as a unique individual. Rather than simply borrowing generic phrases that feel hollow or disconnected from your experience, develop an internal dialogue that speaks directly to your unique situation, your specific goals, and the particular challenges you are navigating. Adjust your approach according to your own natural temperament and learning style. If you are analytically oriented, incorporate logic, rational reasoning, and concrete evidence into your inner conversation. If you are emotionally driven, focus intently on how these new thoughts genuinely feel in your body, allowing those feelings to guide you. If you are naturally creative, work extensively with powerful metaphors, evocative symbols, and vivid imaginative imagery. The ultimate aim is never to merely complete 7 days and then revert to unconscious living. The profound aim is to make conscious, deliberate inner dialogue as natural and automatic as breathing itself. To transform it into your new default way of moving through the world, your inherent mode of being. Right now, in this precise, pivotal moment, You are standing at a genuine crossroads, a profound decision point. You can choose to continue living inside the old internal conversation that has demonstrably generated the life you currently have, with all its limitations and challenges. Or you can make the courageous decision, starting with the very next thought that crosses your mind, to speak to yourself differently, with purpose and intention. The transformation does not begin next week or next month or at some indeterminate point in the future. It begins right now, with the very next word you say to yourself, with the very next thought you choose to entertain. Your future self is not a distant fantasy or an unattainable ideal. As Carl Jung understood with extraordinary depth and clarity, that magnificent person already exists within you right now, fully formed as pure, radiant potential, patiently waiting for the inner conversations that will finally call them forward into the light of your lived experience. Every single moment you speak to yourself as that person, as the confident, capable, and fulfilled version of yourself, you become them a little more completely, a little more authentically. Subscribe to Carl Jung Philosophy for more content that delves beneath the surface of how we think, how we feel, and how we actively create our lives. Share this message with someone who you believe is ready to change the most important conversation they will ever have, the profound and transformative one they are having with themselves.